Hello and welcome to my channel. I'm Tiffany, a retired librarian turned homeschool mom, and in this video we're going to review this. So this is Roald Dahl's Witches. This is my old copy. It's not in great shape, but it's an interesting book. Now, I have covered Roald Dahl on this channel before. We've done Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, Charlie and the Great Glass Elevator. The film is not the Great Glass Elevator. Nobody's insane enough to try to make that mess into a film, thank God. We covered James the Giant Peach, as well as both movie and film, book and film, and then I covered Matilda. So we're going to be moving on to Witches. I'm also going to cover the original film with Angelica Houston. I may look into doing the modern thing with Anne Hathaway. We will see. But as of this video shooting, I just have plans to cover the film, which I believe I have a copy of right now. Yes, I do. I have it from my library. There's the copy. I will be doing that video soon. So this story. Now, if you're familiar with some of my channels and, Roald Dahl, this is creepy. This is not for the faint of heart. Roald Dahl writes horror books. This is going to frighten your children. So, what is the story of this? So, you start off with a little boy who doesn't have a name. His parents are dead, as they have a tendency to occasionally be, similar to James and the Giant Peach, though you don't hear, I don't remember if the book explains why they die. You have to start on the note about witches, which is, yes, grandmother. Let's see. Grandmother. Not sure. And let's see, how did parents die? They were killed in a car accident. So, he lives with grandma in England. And his grandmother is Norwegian, which again, this is kind of connected to Roald Dahl himself. He grew up in England. His grandmother was Norwegian. So this is a little bit closer to home for him. The entire first chapter talks about witches. So this is how he describes witches in this book. They don't have any toes, so they wear pointed-toed shoes. Their irises, if you look very close, are purple. They're very, very ugly. Trying to think besides the they have claws on their fingers, which is why they're wearing gloves in this book. So, and then I think they don't really have hair in there. I think they're completely bald. So they have to wear wigs. And of course, their entire purpose is to kill children because they smell like rat droppings. To witches, children smell disgusting. So the first part of the book describes some of these things these witches have done, including turning a child to stone, trapping one in a mirror, in a painting, where she eventually grows old. Both of these things are kept by their parents, and just children randomly disappearing. So, yeah, witches are evil in this book. So you have a little boy who does not have a name. He has a name in the film, because you would have to in a film. In the book, he's just a boy. And he lives with his grandmother, who's old and smokes cigars and tells him all sorts of horrible stories, like things about witches, and is very, very weird and is periodically encouraging him to take up smoking. He's like an 8-year-old boy. So grandma's kind of sick, so the doctors say, go to the seaside. So they go to the seaside. Doesn't specify exactly where, I don't think. So they go to the seaside. And there's this convention going on from the Prevention for Cruelty to Children. So, and in this, the young boy has interacted with another boy by the name of Bruno, who was, I think, torturing ants. He was burning them with a magnifying glass. He's a kind of a bit of a spoiled brat. And Luke happens upon them. The other big thing that I will mention in this book is Luke has a pair of mice that he's teaching to do circus tricks. So that's he goes into details with that quite a bit in the early parts of the book. So Luke happens to come upon this meeting and is kind of hiding, and turns out it's witches. So they remove their gloves and their shoes and their wigs, and they look like horrible monsters. And the Grand High Witch, who's a very short woman, comes up, does the same. She removes her mask. She is absolutely, utterly hideous. And she talks about this formula where they're going to turn children into mice. And they do that with Bruno and turn him into a mouse. They find and catch our main character and turn him into a mouse. He runs around. He eventually gets to his grandmother. He sees the Grand High Witch, realize she has toads in her room that are probably other children who she's planning on killing. And they look terrified, and literally she's planning on killing them. And so he is able to get to his grandmother and talk to his grandmother. And they're able to kind of rescue Bruno. Though I think it's implied his parents kill him at the end. Again, Roald Dahl is dark. Very, very dark. And he comes up with a plan with his grandmother to get a vial of this formula and put it in the soup to essentially turn all the witches into mice, which is exactly what they do. So it various elaborate plans and what they did to turn all these witches into mice. They return Bruno to his parents. It's kind of implied his parents are probably going to kill him because he's a mouse. The boy goes back to his grandmother. He's happy to stay a mouse because then he won't outlive his grandmother. They design elaborate ways for him to get around the house. And then they have this interesting plan to, basically, they've stolen the Grand High Witch's money because she has a money-making machine where she lives, but to infiltrate some of the other witches and get rid of them. And that is the context of this book. It's very, very dark. It's very, very weird. It's very, very Halloween-y. Because Roald Dahl has a very, very warped mind. So this book is not for the faint of heart. If your kid is sensitive in any way, shape, or form, don't go anywhere near this author in general. Just don't. Roald Dahl has issues. I have an entire video explaining other issues. I have an entire introductory video if you want to go into the ethics of Roald Dahl. I've already covered that. But he had a miserable childhood. He's kind of screwed up, and as are his books. So these are very, very horror. And this is a very, very dark book, because again, the intention is to turn these witches, who are very, very deadly evil, into mice, which they do, and have them killed. Bruno's probably killed. This little boy is happy he's going to stay a mouse and have a short life, so he won't outlive his grandmother. Oh dear. But yeah, it's a very interesting, very, very dark book. Typical of Roald Dahl. It's not that long. It has the illustrations. I mean, there's a picture of Roald Dahl in the back. He looks like a cranky old man. He really, really does. So, but again, this is closer to his heart and his childhood, because again, he grew up in England. He was told some of these dark stories by his grandmother, who was in fact Norwegian. So this is probably one of the closer books to his actual kind of, his storytelling, where it's connected to his childhood and the mythologies that he would have grown up with. So that is really it for this book. I'm not going to go into too much detail. It's very, very well known. I'm going to cover the film, which obviously is different. Roald Dahl hated it, partially because it has a happy ending, and Roald Dahl's probably not big on happy endings. I'm pretty sure he would have hated the Matilda film. But again, Roald Dahl's irritating. So that is the end of this review. If you like what you see, be sure to check out the rest of my channel. Again, I've covered more of Roald Dahl. I do a whole video explaining kind of the ethics of him. I do a lot of other children's books. I do picture books. I do various different films. Some are nostalgia, some are educational, some are kind of in between. So, as well as various different book series for older kids, older historical stuff, some of the classics here and there. So I am a homeschool parent and homeschooling librarian. My child is about 3 at the time you guys are viewing this. She's 2 when I'm shooting it. It's November of 21. So we will be adding more homeschooling stuff as my daughter gets older. Right now, she's still relatively young, and we're not fully doing any schooling yet. So, again, like and subscribe. Check out what I've got. Look forward to more. Thank you.